Welcome back to the Golf Industry Show 2019 here in beautiful San Diego, California. This is the GCSAA TV live stage here, brought to you by Lebanon Turf, and I'm with my great pals Paul McCormick, the Mindful Superintendent, Chris Jerbaugh, Superintendent at Hazeltine Golf Club, Fox Meadow Golf Club for Paul, Prince Edward Island, and Shaska, Minnesota. Shaska, Minnesota. Right. Yep. None of those things matter because we're here to talk about the really important things, which is our own well-being in many ways, and the well-being of our staff, which we feel taking care of yourself, taking care of your people working with you, inherently the course will get taken care of, and then I think you guys have a vision of maybe the whole industry will get taken care of in a new way. And I know both of you have been very active in asserting yourselves along these lines. You with the blog for a really long time. Correct. You more recently with, I think, what people have observed you doing in your management style, and how these two things, completely separate, seem to come together now as a seminar. So let's start there. Paul, you taught for the second time the seminar title.
Well, it's funny because we actually changed the title about 5 minutes before we started this time, and called it simply Mindful Leadership.
Mindful Leadership.
Correct.
So last year it was?
Mindfulness in the Millennials is what we started with.
How to use both to keep your sanity.
Yes.
I think Mindful Leadership is
Mindful
much better.
Leadership is much better.
That's great. Okay, so last year I heard about a packed crowd.
Correct.
Again, packed this year?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So from your perspective, second time teaching it, changed the title, how'd it go?
It was spectacular, actually. Yeah, the response was, again, so humbling and overwhelming to just see a whole packed room full of people who actually are that interested in the concepts of balance and mindfulness and leadership, and really creating the change within themselves to bring back to their golf course.
And the reason, we're having this sort of, it's not like you walk up to anybody and say, hey, how was your seminar? Because what you're doing looks so different to, I think, what happens in other seminar rooms. Yep. Did you have them closing their eyes and doing a little meditation today? Yes?
We managed to get through 2 separate stints of meditation.
Excellent. There was a bit of yoga breathing going on.
A bit of deep breathing going on.
Excellent.
And it's always interesting because it's generally that same blank stare you get when you tell everyone that we're going to do it. But by the time we finish the second round, everybody's dialed in, and it's wonderful.
Full participation.
That's right. So let's start with you now, because it seems like this part of it, sort of tending to yourself and mindfulness, you've taken this in the way you manage your crew and staff, and I know your life as well. What was the second time around like for you, beyond the change of the title, which sounded like it was a good move?
Yeah, each seminar, and you'll know this from your experience, each seminar, even if the subject matter is the same, is a little bit different.
That's right.
And it's different because of the audience that's there. It's different because of the questions that come from the people who are sitting there. And that really, I think, for me, and I think when you get experience at doing this, on whatever the subject matter is, that's the fun part about it, is each one's a little bit different.
And you're different. I'm different. When I come back and teach something I haven't taught for a year and I revisit the material, I'm not looking at it the same way in this case, right? And I know, because both of you have gotten a lot of feedback of the stuff you do, you are able to pivot to it. So what was different then? What would you say you did different from your perspective this year?
Sometimes I think there's been a fear in my giving that talking about leadership and culture, and you look around the room, and I know the industry well enough to be, maybe you're a little fearful. You see a few people and you go, I don't know if this is going to resonate with them, but it's changing for me now, because I go, look, you've come here to see this. This is what you're going to get. This is the message you're going to get. And
you think they know what they're signing up for when they do it? It's like, oh, Chris, I know Paul. I've read some of his stuff. Or, oh, yeah, he did the Ryder Cup. I'm going to go see what he says.
I think most do.
Maybe I'm going to learn how to get bent grass greens better.
I think most do. I think most know what they're getting. And I think some, maybe it's a surprise to them. But I hope that for everyone that's there, there's a nugget that they can take from it, even if it's one thing, 2 things. Paul always mentions that. If it's 1 or 2 things that they can take away from there that will help them, or help their staff or their course, then we're winning.
Well, so from my perspective, it sounds like, and I know this from having so many conversations with you about it, that there are things that are beginning to resonate. The things you say, and I know it from speaking in front of people, that when you say it, they got it.
Yeah.
It's not all the time, but it seems like two things are happening. One is you guys are couching this thing from two people well respected as superintendents to other people as superintendents, and also they're open to it. Right? They're sitting in there. So there has to be a little bit of both. I know from my experience, I say a lot of things no one's open to. And so sometimes that sort of doesn't fit. What's resonating? Why is this resonating now?
I think the talk itself resonates well because of how we've structured it, because of starting with the mindfulness, starting with just deconstructing what it means to be a person, not just a superintendent, and how we're all in it together. We all suffer from time to time. And we all need to work together to help ourselves together.
But there's there's a part of this that we have to talk openly about. One is, I was here with the We One this morning, right? And it's clear there's medical issues that people confront and it challenges them. We're talking about a different health issue. We're talking, in my opinion, about mental health to a certain extent. How we have to take care of ourselves emotionally. It's not something, either as men, as superintendents, or otherwise, is normally talked about, right? Oh, you're soft, oh, you're this. So you've been able to sort of internalize it from, a way that makes it work in your career, right? And I know you're with your staff as well. You've taken that message and tried to sort of make it part of the fabric of your operation at a pretty high level. That's the part I want to hear you chat about, how that's resonating.
Well, and so Paul talks about opening up space for yourself to give yourself a bit of a break. And then I come in on the second half of the talk and say, okay, well, a lot of people might say, I don't have the time and the space to give to myself because I'm so busy, and I got to run around all day long and watch my staff, because otherwise nobody's going to do the kind of work that I want them to do.
Right.
And so that's where I come in on the back side of it and say, okay, look, this is what we're doing at Hazeltine, and this is what we've had success with, and how a leadership and culture, builds on itself and gains momentum, and you create this wonderful experience where you have rather than having a bunch of staff, you have a bunch of leaders completing roles throughout the day and throughout the month and the season, and it makes your job as the superintendent much, much easier.
Or at least less stressful.
Less stressful. And I think our industry is so focused on, many industries, but ours in particular is so focused on busyness as a badge of honor.
Right.
And that we need to get away from that. We need to understand that a quality product can be created by someone who doesn't feel like they're always busy.
Well, that's right, and I can't help but lead this now to, and I wonder if you included your NAP tweet from this year. Did that make it to the seminar?
NAP did not come up in the seminar.
It did not, but I love it, because to me, that's such a wedge issue because of the busyness we have, right? And there's certainly times in every superintendent's year of grown grass or managing an operation where you're not taking a nap. You're just pretty busy most of the day. It's a pretty important time, pretty important day. You actually said, hey man, I can do this because I'm taking care of myself, but also because I got a staff that knows what they're doing.
Right.
If I got to run around and watch them, what do I need them for?
Yeah.
I mean, there is this sense, and I wonder, it didn't come up in the seminar. No one seems to, but me, to keep bringing it up.
You love it.
I do,
yes.
Because to me, it really highlighted. Remember, to me, that was the response. Remember the response?
Totally, but it didn't come up like as a wedge issue, but we did bring it up multiple times about how creatively and purposefully inserting a mindful pause through your day, whether you're taking a nap, whether you're meditating quietly, whether you're gone for a walk, anything you're doing allows you that space that Chris touched on, to regroup and follow through on your day.
Because invariably, we don't do it, and then what happens? We're yelling at someone.
Yeah.
We're critical of someone.
Right.
We're not given that positive reinforcement that builds confidence, that builds trust, right? That builds empowerment in your organization.
Right.
So, obviously you finished up the seminar for the second year, wildly successful. we had a little moment this past fall that we got to participate in with some support from Syngenta Canada and our pal Dave Kuipers. Funded this idea of taking a select group of superintendents into a remote location. I know you live there. It is in fact remote. Hate to break it to you.
It is.
It is a remote location where you can immerse yourself in just quiet and take away the business for a minute. And so why don't you talk a little bit about the sort of how that came about, and then we'll talk about how it all went.
Well, again, it was one of those things that started as a kernel of an idea, and through Chris and I speaking together and refining the message through the seminars, all of a sudden it became a more palatable idea.
Right.
And then once we got the funding from Syngenta, and once we were able to get together and sit down and decide on the people we thought would really lend a lot to the first edition
And be
of it.
ambassadors.
And be ambassadors, because that was something we had decided on right out of the gate, that this message is not about Chris and I going around telling everyone what to do. This is about us planting a seed and allowing the people to take it home and tend it the way they see fit.
So we hope a lot coming from that moving forward. But what really touched me was that some of our colleagues that were there really needed it.
Yeah.
It looked like it was the right thing at the right time for several of the attendees from my perspective. Now, you know from hanging around with me, you see me for periods of time and then Frank disappears like Batman.
Yeah.
Because I got my own introverted things I'm working through.
Something I can appreciate.
I really like the fact that it was immersed, it was remote, it was the right thing at the right time. So we got to wrap up soon. I hate to break it to you, quicker than I wanted to. So what is the next step for these ideas? I mean, I'm thinking there's a lot of chapters throughout the United States that could benefit from a retreat type of an approach, right, for superintendents and their local associations.
Right.
What do you think is the best way to keep this moving?
Well, what I know...
Because it can't just be seminars and you running around, because there's not enough of you to.
No, and one thing I do know is that we need a bigger room at GIS next year, because that thing.
So we'll make that note to Amanda.
We will make that
room.
note. I will let Amanda know. But I think that it does need to. We need to have some continuation, and Paul's worked really hard on that. And you and I have both offered input, and those who were
But
part of it this year.
you see for sure there's a need to start to get this message out.
Yeah.
So I think one of the ideas we've been floating around is looking for sponsorship for these kinds of local association retreats that can be led in a way like you'd lead your seminar. But when we did that long go away and the island, that lot of space you get away from your normal life, I think for me really resonated with how much peacefulness I felt sort of after that fact. And I don't know why we got to wrap up. No one's paying attention. I'm not going to wrap it up. You're still paying attention. Good. Okay. So we have. Listen, I personally have an enormous amount of hope for both of you guys to continue very successfully with this, for something that again we don't talk about enough from a mental health perspective.
Right.
And let's hope that there are more people who hear this message, and the 12 ambassadors we were during that time, that message is starting to resonate. So I'm going to thank you on behalf of everybody for doing such a great job at this, and really appreciate you joining me this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for the trip. Travel safe back. Frank Rossi here on the GCSAA TV live stage at the Golf Industry Show 2019, brought to you by Lebanon Turf. I guess we're going to see everybody tomorrow. Thanks very much. See you then.